Okay, if you haven't already checked out the color study, the color correction tool comparisons, you really should, because in that specific tutorial, I cover a broad view of the curves, selective color, and color balance as far as making simple color moves is concerned. So you should definitely check that out before you move into this. I mean, you're more than welcome to check out this particular tutorial on selective color, but I really want you guys to see the differences between the three tools and the similarities. Check that out, and then we can get started with this one. On this particular tutorial, we're going to go over something a little different, specifically on how to use selective color. Now, in that specific tutorial, I showed you that curves was the more powerful of the tool because it enabled you to pinpoint where you wanted to make your adjustment, and it also made a much smoother transition by using the points, the adjustment points and the anchor points in the curve versus the selective color and the color balance. I also said that all of the color correction tools that I mentioned in the tutorial were great for what they did, but every image is different. And in the situation where I showed you the grayscale image, the curves turned out to be the most pinpoint, powerful laser beam type technique to use over the selective color and color balance. In this particular image, we're going to show how the curves really wouldn't do a great job, nor would color balance work in this situation, because what the client wants, hypothetically, is this teal green colored dress in the ring to be more toward the blue. So the novice retoucher may say, okay, well, now I have to go into my color channels, and they look through the different color channels and look for the best way to make a selection, and probably drive themselves mad for a couple of hours and make a really sloppy mask and try and affect it that way. The seasoned retoucher, who's been doing this for a long time, would probably go right to the right tool and boom, 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 finish it, which I would do. Not to pat myself on the back, but looking at this image, I know exactly what tool to use. But I kind of want to show you through an example what not to do and why curves really wouldn't be the sniper rifle in this tutorial. So if we open up curves, if I wanted to make this more blue, the only way I'd have to do that is to come down to my agree channel over here, try and find this area. Let me use this over here. Try and find this area in here and move it away from the greens. And maybe find the cyan channel and do that. The only problem is that it makes a global move. It affects the hair, it affects the skin, the lips, the eyes, everything. It affects the entire image. So again, I would have to come in here and fill this mask with black, Command Delete, grab a brush, and paint in the move. Now this might be okay for all intents and purposes, but I'm not digging it because the ring is still green, and it kind of changes the way that the hair looks over here in this section. I would have to make a secondary or tertiary move. So curves wouldn't be the tool of choice, or the sniper rifle in this case. It looks like the curves turns out to be the bazooka in the room. So what about color balance? Let's look at color balance. We open up color balance, and we have to work with this over here is dynamic range, shadows, midtones, and highlights. And then we just have a color adjustment move. That's not going to work either. It's going to work exactly like the curves. It's not enabling us to pinpoint a color. It's only enabling us to pinpoint an area in the dynamic range. So I'm just going to throw this out. That being the case, we've now just gotten rid of two color moves. So what do you think the third one is left? Well, 3 or 4 of them would work. We could even try to use hue saturation, but let's just leave hue saturation out of the picture for now, because that would also probably be a really good tool. This is between curve, selective color, and color balance. So let's open up selective color, just for the sake of argument. Now in here we want to change the rings, and we want to change the dress area as fast as possible without a lot of hoopla. So we go into the greens, theoretically, because it looks green, and we see what happens when we move the colors around. Well, in the greens, it tends to move just in a specific area. So if we wanted it to be more toward the blues and away from the greens, like the client requested, we would take some of the yellow out. Now that didn't do such a bad job. It kind of made the dress a little bit more blue, but it really didn't hit as hard as I wanted it to. Let's move the eyeball and see what happens. Yeah, it did it, but it just kind of kept it in the teal family. So let's go to the cyans, because the cyans are probably bordering on this green. And sometimes that's just the way Photoshop works. So let's pull the yellows out of the cyan area. Oh, look what happens. Look how beautiful blue this dress just turned. And this ring just turned blue as well. We pop this stuff out, and it looks like we've managed to do it. And the eyes don't seem to be affected. The rest of the skin, the hair, the background doesn't seem to be affected. So let's double check our work. I'm referring back to the canine curves tutorial. So if you haven't seen it, watch it. Here's my action for white curves. I put this on, white check. Now I'm going to turn off the selective color move here. And you notice that this is the image as it was. With the selective curve move, I put the eyeballs on and off. And the only thing that seems to be adjusted here is the ring and the dress. And once again, this is another great reason for using the canine curves, because when you do a color move like this, you want to make sure that you're not making any boo-boos. For instance, if her eyes fell into a green color, let's just say she had hazel or dark hazel blue eyes, the color move that we just made here may actually affect her eyes, and it's such a small area of the image we really wouldn't see it. But with the selective color, you're going to see it. Just as we see the ring changing, even as subtly as it's changing. So we've seen here that we've affected just the dress and the ring. If we want to do a little bit more in the ring, well, then we can always just make a quick selection and put a curve on there, use something else to actually take care of that ring. But globally, to make the jewelry and the dress less green and more blue, our job is done. It would have taken us about 5 seconds to do it. So in this case, we find that selective color is a sniper rifle, and curves and color balance happen to be the hand grenade in the room. The next tutorial, one of the next tutorials on color correction, I'm going to actually show you the difference using hue saturation and when hue saturation would actually make a better choice, or when hue saturation would be the sniper rifle in this case. So keep your eyes open and keep working. See you later.